On this earth, everything that is born must one day leave this world. Whether it's a flower that may live for only a week, or the cypress of Abaku, which has stood tall for 4,000 years. Humans are no exception to this rule. One day they are born, and one day they must leave. Usually people become familiar with death through the passing of their elders. The death of their grandmother, grandfather, then their parents, and so on as life progresses. No one can escape this fate. As the saying goes, the camel of death rests at everyone's door. When people talk to each other, they share memories of their childhood. They talk about their teenage years, about where they grew up, and they keep going forward in their stories. But when it comes to the end, they stop talking. They try not to pay attention to it. For example, when a baby is born, people celebrate. The first birthday is considered important, and they try to celebrate every birthday. Childhood, adolescence, and youth are sweet times, and we love talking about them. But we never like to talk about the end, that is death. As we said, a person usually first encounters death when their grandfather or grandmother passes away. For a young person, this might be their first time experiencing such a feeling. But it shouldn't be like that. People should be familiar with death from the beginning. When they become familiar with it and understand it, their life becomes easier. It is something inevitable in all our lives. Why not recognize it? Why do we run from it? So let's get to know it, so at least life becomes easier. One thing we know very well about death is that when it arrives, everything ends. At least that's what we can see. We have seen it when someone dies, their heart stops, their breathing ceases, their organs shut down one by one, their skin turns bluish, and you feel that the person who once existed no longer exists. At least not in this body anymore. This part of the story we understand. But what happens after that we don't know. Everyone who has spoken about it has shared their own beliefs. Usually those who die do not return, but only if they are truly dead. Many times in hospitals, doctors declare someone dead, yet a few minutes later, or even hours later, they suddenly come back to life. Right now we want to focus on such people, those who have died and returned. When people who have had this experience are interviewed, the stories they tell are almost always similar. The most famous claim is that their entire life flashes before their eyes like a movie. But when asked about the details of that movie, did you see your wedding? Did you see the first car you bought? Did you see the birth of your first child? They remember none of these things. Instead, they recall a random childhood memory of riding a bicycle, or a day when they were reading a newspaper, or a cat they knew as a child. When you think about it, they see things that don't seem very important in everyday life. If we consider these stories, it suggests that when we die, we see the simplest moments of our lives, not the important parts. One of the reasons people fear death is that it gives them a sense of loneliness. Some believe that humans are born alone and must also die alone. But some of these people who have died and come back say, "When I died, I saw a deceased loved one waiting for me. They were standing there, ready to take my hand and guide me along a path where a light could be seen." In summary, these stories suggest that the people who experienced these near-death moments were never alone. This is the common element in all their stories. But we cannot say how these thoughts came to them. Were they imagining it, or was there really a path leading to paradise? We cannot confirm or deny it. It's not something we can argue about. But one common thing among these resurrected dead was the feeling of not being alone. None of them ever described loneliness. Some people believe that humans have a soul, and when they die, that soul leaves their body. They say about those who come back to life that their time of death hadn't arrived yet, and the soul returned to their body. Unfortunately, science cannot define the soul, nor can it prove its existence. Many religions around the world believe in the soul, but scientifically it is entirely unprovable. There are also people who have experienced death in a different way and returned, such as accident victims or even those who overdosed, died, and then came back. The stories these people tell are usually similar. They often say that in the ambulance or hospital, as the doctors and nurses were working on them, they were outside their bodies, standing beside them, watching the scene unfold, as if their soul had left their body and observed everything from the outside. Then, when they came back to life, they suddenly returned to their bodies. When we hear these stories, different thoughts come to mind. Does a human being truly have a soul, or are we just made of different atoms? We have all had acquaintances who passed away, and none of them have ever returned. There has never been any sign of them returning, no trace of their soul. Whoever has left this world, it's a farewell forever. Throughout history, humans have created rituals for themselves, building temples and treating their dead in different ways. Some mummify them, some burn them, some bury them, and some leave them on rocks for birds to eat. Every culture has its own way of dealing with death. In this world, thousands of cultures exist, and each has its own beliefs about death. Many religions say that heaven and hell exist. Hindus believe that we are reborn into the world. For example, the beliefs of the Aztecs are not something that can be easily summarized, as they have an extensive written record, and their views on death vary for each person. For instance, if a warrior dies fighting for his homeland, he goes to the Western Paradise. If a mother dies during childbirth, she goes to the Eastern Paradise. But if someone dies of old age, they are taken straight to hell, at least, according to the Aztecs. In a way, these beliefs encouraged people to seek an honorable death in youth through battle to reach heaven. For the person who dies, there is no sorrow, but all the sadness and grief are for their loved ones, who will never see them again. And that is the heartbreaking part, knowing that you will never see that person again, and only their name and memory remain, and even that for just a short while. Eventually, they fade into oblivion. We are alive as long as our name is spoken on earth. We are truly dead when our name is no longer spoken anywhere. But regardless of what we do, the earth continues to spin, and we eventually reach the end of our time. It may come sooner or later, but there's no escaping it. So try to live the best life you can. Be a good person, that's enough. Wishing you all health and a long, honorable life.